protocols. Let's add a new driver or protocol to our DataMiner system and see how the versioning is being managed. That's basically through a production version. We'll also take a look at the Visio files we can assign to it and an information template allowing you to override certain information from your driver. Let's take a look at that. So protocols. First of all, we will take a look at the user interface, and then we will see that we have some versioning to do there. So let's discover about how that version and production version is being handled. Then we'll add a driver to our DataMiner system, see about deleting drivers and also editing. You can actually do live editing on a DataMiner system, assign a Visio file, and then take a closer look at the information template and basically discover what you can overrule in such an information template, and wrap it up briefly with the element overview, which is also available in the UI. Now, looking at the UI, we will be concentrated in the protocols and templates app. So just to pop up our DataMiner system once more. So I'm still connected to dcpdma.skyline.be. And if we go to the apps, in the apps, we do find here the protocols and templates app. So we will take a closer look at this module here for the protocols and the versioning and the information templates here. And then in the next modules, alarm templates and trend templates, that's for the next modules. So this is going to be an important module or an important application, the protocols and templates app. So in here, we will be able to add new drivers there, to delete drivers, to manage our production version, but also create some information template, for instance. That's things we will discover in this module. So first of all, we will be concentrated on the first two columns of this app. And the first column basically shows you all the drivers that are in there. But as I mentioned already, a driver, we refer to that in the DataMiner system as a protocol. So you can find all the protocols in there, but also service protocols. What's a service protocol? Well, that's actually a protocol or a driver that is being used for an enhanced service. That's something we will discover later on when creating a service. So for now, don't worry about that. That's just a list of all the drivers in your system. Whenever you select a driver, you will see the details in the second column, basically all the versions that we have available there. Excuse me. And also information templates, which we will create as well. Visio files, I will briefly mention that because Visio files, we will create a Visio file later on as well. Functions that's more specific for certain drivers. Now, let's go to, first of all, our versioning, because that is a very important topic here. If I add new elements to my DataMiner system, I typically use production version. If I create an automation script, for instance, or a correlation rule in my DataMiner system, I typically use production version. And that is highly recommended to always use production version throughout your DataMiner system when doing configuration. Now, what is production version? Production version is basically a pointer, and the production version points to one of the versions that you have available in your list of versions. So in this case, we have a Microsoft platform selected. We have a whole series of versions available, and you can just select any of them, right-click on it, and set it as production. And that's going to be your production version. So if I have 100 servers or switches or any kind of device in my system, all 100 of them are configured to be used the production version. If tomorrow a new version becomes available of that driver, I can install that driver on my DataMiner system and it won't be used yet because they all use production version and it still points to that first version of yesterday. Now, I can take one specific device or element in my system. I can edit this element and just say like, okay, use the new version, version 2, let's say. And I can play around with it and see if the new information is in there now, maybe some additional information or data is being retrieved from the data source. certain changes are maybe incorporated, or maybe a fix somewhere. I see everything is okay. So I take the element, I put it back on the production version, and then I go into my UI, and I can say here for the Microsoft platform, the second version, the new version I just installed and validated on one element. I right click on it, I say set as production, and immediately the 100 elements will stop, take the new driver into account, and start again and doing the polling with the new driver. So that's typically how you can work. You install it, you take a look at it. If everything is fine, you set the new version as production, and all of it goes to the new version. If you want to go back, simply go back to the old version, right click, set as production, and you're instantaneously back on the old version as you were a few minutes ago. So that's how the production works. It's a pointer, and it allows you to configure your DataMiner system very easily, switch back and forward between different versions. Just keep in mind, whenever you're configuring something in your DataMiner system, adding new devices, creating an automation script, a correlation rule, any kind of configuration, just use that production version at all times. That's typically what the UI will also suggest. While we are at the right-click menu, note there's also a get mip file that's for the SNMP northbound proxy, and an export to a CSV file with all the parameters with some additional information. So if you want to have like an overview of what this driver or this version contains, a list of all the parameters with some details, you can do so with right-clicking and exporting the parameters. So that's the versioning, the production version, very important item. Now, how do I add a new driver if I receive a driver from my technical account manager or from Skyline? You can basically just right-click in here and go for upload, but this one is limited to a protocol XML. It only allows XML files. In the upload there, it will also allow you to upload a .dm protocol. Is it mentioned somewhere here? No. And typically, we are distributing a driver in a .dm protocol, DM from DataMiner protocol, a DataMiner protocol, because this package not only contains the protocol XML, but it can also contain like a Visio file or template, so we can give you some help information as well. So immediately you can see here, right-click the help, the driver help is also immediately then available in there. So typically it's a DM protocol, and you can upload it on the right-hand side. Small note, when you replace an existing version, so if you would already have that version and you upload it again, you're basically replacing the existing version. All the elements are again going to restart, even if it's the same one, because we don't do a file comparison check or something. We just assume there's going to be a change, and all the elements using that specific driver version will do a restart. Keep that in mind. There's a second way to actually get a newer version of a driver. It doesn't necessarily need to go through the manual upload process. You can actually see here in the upper right-hand side, you have a check for updates in the UI, or you can go and click on your username in the blue header bar and go for check for updates. This will bring you to the update window you see here. There are two tab pages. You can check for protocol updates and software updates. So you will need to specify your DCP credentials if not done yet, and if not linked yet to your account already. And then you will be able to check online if for any of the drivers that you have, there is already an update available here. So in this case, you can see the Cisco Manager, it has an update. So the version is indicated, and it also indicates the changes since the version 71. That's the one I use. And it already has a version 137, so I already missed quite a few updates. So you can see all of the changes that are listed from your version to the new version that is available. You select any of the versions that you want to install. So just hit the checkboxes and you click install and you have them immediately available on your DataMiner system. So remember that check for updates allows you to quickly get updates online as well. Let's maybe take a look at that in our UI. So as I mentioned, we are in the protocols and templates. So let me close that again. So if you are in your surveyor, you need to go to apps. Underneath apps, you will find the protocols and templates application there. So in here, we can select any of the drivers. Let's go for that Microsoft platform. We just added already an element in the previous video on the Microsoft platform. It was using the production version 1.10.85. So that's my version that I have here. So if I want to upload a new one, I can go for upload and choose an XML or a DM protocol here from my computer, or I can go for check for updates and it already has some updates standing by. Or if I click on the check, I will need to specify some credentials in my case. I'm not going to do that now. You can just select your Microsoft, now it's gone. Oh, there it is. Yeah. The Microsoft platform, and you can see actually the version history of there as well. And you can basically click on the install button to install a newer version onto your DataMiner system. Once a new version is available there, so I still have an older version, I can just right click and I can set as production the older version. Then basically all the Microsoft elements on my system will immediately revert back to the older version and I can easily switch back to the newer version. So that's how easy it is to add a new driver on there and to just put it into production. Okay, so adding a driver, either you go manual or you check for the updates. Once you have a new version on there, you can check it on one element. If you're happy with it, then you can just set it as production and have all of your elements using that new production version that you selected. The updates show all available updates. Not all the updates will be shown, so you can show all the updates by clicking on this button. That's adding a driver. Deleting a driver, basically that's simple. You just right click on a version or a driver and you delete it. I just want to make you aware, read the warning that will be shown on what exactly will be removed from your system, because you have to be aware that, for instance, templates like an alarm template and a trend template, which we still need to cover in one of the next videos there, together with maybe Visio files, information templates, that's all information that is related to a specific driver. So if you delete, for instance, a driver with all of the versions, you could basically also delete some templates and some Visio files. And if you said like, oops, I made a mistake, oh, no worries, I still have the driver on my desktop, you can indeed upload it again, but you don't have on your desktop the alarm templates you created, the trend templates, the Visio files, and all of these things. So be aware, if you delete a driver, some other information might also be deleted along with it. And if it's still in use, then basically the elements will be stopped and they won't be able to be activated again. If you would ever have something like this happening and you delete a driver by mistake and some alarm templates and things are removed, be aware that there is a recycle bin on a DataMiner agent, and we typically store everything into the recycle bin before we apply any user actions. So if you ask the DataMiner system to delete something, the DataMiner system will do so, but it will first take a copy and store it into that recycle bin. So we can still go back to that recycle bin to restore that. I will talk about that as well in the backup module, which is coming up later. So as I said, carefully read the information that is in the pop-up. It is important information which is in there. And the production version cannot be deleted. So first one, you have to move the production pointer to another version before you will be able to delete the production version. There must be a production there. Adding the drivers, deleting the driver, but you can also edit a driver. you can actually just open up a driver, take a look at all the details, and do online editing of your driver right into the DataMiner cube, apply the change, and have it live updated into your system. How can we do that? Well, you just double click or right click on a specific version. So if you want to take a closer look at a specific version, you just double click or you right click and you say open or open a new card or undocked card. I'll just open it and it opens up that driver with some details here at the top, with the name of the driver, some description, the version, the vendor, serial, etc. And then underneath the general, we have the contents, which is basically the XML, but you see a bunch of green stuff. That is comments, so we can just ignore that. Well, I mean, it does have a revision history table, which is interesting, but the real driver is starting here from the protocol tag, and it has all the information in here. Very short, how does a driver look like? Well, you will have a number of parameters in there. So if you're looking for the total processor load, you can actually search here on the upper right hand side. So you will see that the parameter 350, the total processor load, it is somewhere, let's see, visualized here on the performance page on position 00. So all of the parameters you see on the data display are described in here, but we do have actually a display editor to change these things. And at the very bottom of a driver, and going up a little bit, some port settings we have at the very bottom, but just above that we have typically timers. And there we will see that we have different timers, and we have a timer for the processor that is being retrieved. That is every 5 seconds the processor load will be updated. Bytes information, the handles, page file, disk information, they all have different timers. So you can see each time it's in milliseconds. That's like 20 seconds here, a 10-second timer. So we do have the flexibility to retrieve certain information very fast and other information a little bit slower to make sure that we consume the resources in the correct way. The resources of both ways, the DataMiner agent, but also the data source we're pulling. We don't want to overpull the data source with information we don't need. Let me go up a little bit because I want to show that it not only XML is being added in there. So we have XML for the parameters, for the timers, but also for groups and response, command and responses and these kind of things. And we can actually also do C# code in there. Let me go up a little bit more until we have the beginning. So we have here something that gets the performance counters and does some kind of calculation. So we do have quite a lot of flexibility to do some neat stuff in here in a driver. So you are actually able to just make a change in here and to save that. But be aware, if you make a change to a driver, all the elements using this driver will restart. And of course, if you make a change to a driver that you received from Skyline, we are not aware that you made that change. So tomorrow, if we bring out a new version of that specific driver, your change will not be in there. So it is not recommended to actually do a change on a driver that is developed by Skyline. We do ask you to get back out to us and ask us to incorporate that change. If you have valuable feedback, please provide that to us and we can take a look on how to get that into the driver. Because this way we can gather the information from all the people around the world, get that all into the driver to make the best possible driver there available for everybody using that driver. Now, let me just cancel that. I won't make any changes in here. So it is technically possible to make a change in here, but actually typically people won't develop in here. You can make a quick fix or change in there you quickly need. But typically we will use Visual Studio with DIS. DIS is DataMiner Integration Studio. That's a plugin for Visual Studio that allows you to have editors and easy editing of a driver with imports and a data display editor and these kind of things. So typically you use this environment to develop drivers, but if necessary, you can make a quick change in here. Note that exported drivers for DVEs, that's a little bit, that's a parent driver that can export child drivers. So the child drivers, you can actually not change them in here because they are exported. So those will be read-only as well with the encrypted drivers. And as I said, the drivers or all the elements using that driver will be restarted if you make a change here. So be careful with making changes here. Now, so we had the drivers with the versioning. So we were able to add a driver, delete a driver, to edit a driver. Now let's take a look at the other stuff which is available in the UI. So we are going to concentrate now, so we took a look at the versions. We can add a new version, set a production, and right click and edit, and delete it of course as well, and open it to edit it. Now we have the information templates and the Visio files. First of all, the Visio files. So for every driver or protocol I add to my system, I can make a graphical presentation, because maybe you noticed when in the previous module or video we were adding an element, our Microsoft element here, the training BERT 1 and 2, and it actually has a graphical presentation already available. And I didn't configure that. Well, actually that's because that's already assigned in my system to the Microsoft platform. So there are actually three Visio files or types of Visio files you can assign to a driver. The first one is, if nothing is available, it will be the general default. I can show you what the general default looks like. This one is just a test QA thing for units that is on here. This is the default graphical presentation. So you always have, of course, all the parameters in there, but the graphical presentation, since we don't really know what it is, it's just a generic object showing some details about the description, the polling IP, the driver, etc., and some more information behind here as well. So that's just a general default that is defined in my system. The protocol default, that's something we can provide when providing you with a driver. So you can have, like, for instance, for the Microsoft or a Cisco already a nice graphical presentation, or you can just go for adding your own custom choice there. So you have the three options. You can see which one is activated with the checkbox, and you can just use the right click to change that. Let me see if I can go back to my protocols and templates, and there are some QA things on here. This one has a custom. This one is just the general default. And for my Microsoft platform, this one is actually on a custom. It doesn't have a protocol default in here apparently. So you can just right click and switch between a custom representation that you want to make, or the general default or a protocol default. So it's marked with a check icon there, and you can also see that the ones that have a Visio file are actually nicely indicated with an icon. So you can see that the Microsoft platform has indeed a custom visual graphical presentation assigned to you along with some others. So if you want to do so, you can just right click and you can choose to upload a new custom Visio file. So if you have a graphical presentation, you can upload it to your DataMiner system, and then the custom will be selected. You can delete it again as well. And as I mentioned, they are marked with a Visio icon. So all the drivers in here with the Visio icon are the ones that have a custom graphical presentation. That's just a quick thing on how to assign the Visio file there. Creating the Visio file, that's something we still need to cover in the Creating Visio Files video. So that's coming up later. here we don't need to worry too much about the Visio files yet. Just be aware that every driver or protocol can have a graphical presentation. The general default is always there. There can also be a protocol default provided by us, and you can make a custom one, which we have already done for a couple of them, like the Microsoft. That's why my Microsoft element immediately has a nice graphical presentation when adding it. Okay, now the last thing that I want to mention is the information templates. And that's basically the first template that we are discovering here. Because if you remember from the DataMiner introduction, DMS introduction, we do have a driver that is provided by Skyline, for instance. But sometimes I want to change certain things like the alarm threshold. When is a parameter going into alarm? Or which parameters that I want to activate for trending, or some information like a name of a parameter or the description of a parameter. These kind of things I can actually also tweak. So instead of saying like, oh, I want to change something to the driver, let's open up the driver and start editing the driver, I would say stop. First, let's take a look if we cannot change this in the information template, because then we can leave the driver as it is. We don't touch the driver. That is being managed by Skyline, for instance, with some new versions that are becoming available on a regular basis. And I will create an overlay, an information template, to overrule certain bits and pieces from the driver. Of course, you can create your own driver as well. Then you manage everything. And then you can, of course, make sure that the name is immediately correct, etc. But let's take a look at how that works, how to overrule certain information, or maybe you want to translate the names of the parameters into another language. So you do have the driver, you do have the versions, but underneath the versions, you have information templates. Underneath the information templates, you will always find the default information template, because that's the one which is embedded into the driver, you could say. But I can create other ones. I can create new ones, my own information template. I overrule, I override certain information in the system. And then I can set this one active in my DataMiner system. Note, this is not related to the version. Doesn't matter if I switch a production version here to another version, my information template just remains here on template 1 forever until I would change it again, of course. We can play around with that with an example on our DCP system as well. Now, how do I create an information template? You simply, let me go back to my protocols and templates, and maybe we'll go for the Microsoft platform, which we have created an element for. So if I open up any new card, let's say that I'm not so happy with the total processor load. I want to call it CPU load, for instance. Well, yeah, CPU load. Of course, I could have multiple CPUs, so total processor load is maybe better, but anyhow. I go to my Microsoft platform, and there I see that I have the default information template that is being used here, and there is already somebody that created in other templates. So I can just ignore that one and just right-click, and I can say new. And I need to specify, and I will call it like Rui, I will call it Bert template, my first name and template. The driver, of course, I'm working here on the Microsoft platform, so that's already correctly specified. So I just right click on the default information template, select new, and then I go for specifying a name, and it will show me this interface where I see basically on the left-hand side all of the parameters that are available in my data display. I have the performance page, remember here, I have the performance page with all of these parameters on there, like available physical memory, yeah, all of it. And underneath other pages, task manager, service lists. So those are basically all the pages that I have here, task manager, service list, etc. And on each of those pages, I do see all of the parameters, and I can select a parameter. And let me maximize this one again. And on the right hand side, I do have certain bits and pieces I can overwrite. I can change the name, etc. We'll go through that in just a second. So that's how I can actually overrule that. Now, let me just okay that, and let me open up the template of Rui. And not a good example. Let me go for another one on the Philips device here, the My Information template. You will see that only one parameter is showing up. Well, that is because this is an information template that has been created, and it basically overrules the name of the audio output level to output gain. But since it was already created, it filters down the long list of all the parameters to only the ones that are relevant and that have been changed. So you can see here at the top, only the edited parameters are being shown. So if you want to go back and see all of the parameters, you will need to select the protocol parameters, and then you see all of the things you see on the data display. Note there is also a third option, all parameters. That's also general parameters that are being included. That's more like a timer-based thing. So we are not really interested in those because they are not coming from the driver, but they are from the DataMiner system itself. So be aware of that. Only the edited parameters, that's when you open it up for the second time that you might miss all of the long list of your parameters, and only the ones that are changed and modified are being shown. So let me go back to my BERT template and open that one up again. I didn't make any changes yet. The only thing I did, I said right click on that default information template, create a new template, specify the name, and I have my list of parameters standing by. As I mentioned, be aware of that drop down if you go back for editing. Now, what do we have in there whenever you select a specific parameter? So here we are selecting local time, just an example. And you can see on the right-hand side, all the things you can overwrite in an information template. So let's take a quick look at that. The first thing I can do, I can change the parameter description, basically the name of the parameter, you could say. So the local time, if I'm not happy with that, I can change that and activate the override and give it another name. Let's maybe do that for the total processor load. We wanted to do that, so let's go for total processor load. I want to change that and I want to call it CPU loads. That's how simple it is. Actually, I can already show you if I OK that, and if I right click and I set this one as the active one, it says, yeah, like, do you want to sure? Yes, I'm sure. So it switches there. Let me open. It's still open. It's still open and it already changed. So if I go back to the default, set this one as active. Yes, I want to change it. You can see that it changes automatically here back to the total processor loads. And apparently I'm generating some alarms here. Okay. And my alarm storm protection is gone again. Okay. So, but what else can we do? So we can change the name or description of a parameter. The detailed description, that's a little bit, if you drill down into a parameter, you do have on the details page, that's, let me go to available physical memory. On the details page, some more information here. What is the available, well, let me maximize this one. What's the available physical memory? Well, that's the amount of physical memory available to processes running on this computer in kilobytes. So this information, that's basically what I can change in this template. So if I open up my template again, so as you can see, only one parameter is now being shown. If I want to add some more, I need to be going back here to all the protocol parameters. Available physical memory. So here you can see that same sentence again. So that's the detailed description. If you drill down into a parameter, you can see that detailed description in there, which is also indicated in the tooltip when you move your mouse on top of there. So you can see it in the tooltip as well. Now, what else do we have? A custom description that's a little bit more specific. That's actually to allow you to, like, let's say, across different drivers, make a slightly different parameter, which is a little bit different, still have it the same custom name so that you can refer to that custom name in something like a visual overview, the pole socket dashboard automation. So sometimes a parameter might be a little bit, the name might be a little bit different across different drivers. So here you can keep that a little bit more aligned with the custom name. It's not shown anywhere in the UI, but you can refer to it, for instance, inside a Visio file or an automation script. The next three items are category key points and component info. That's for business intelligence. It basically allows you to specify, for instance, the category, and there are a couple of examples in here, if it's a hardware or a network problem, or a key point if it's something like the encoding stage or the decoding stage, etc., or the component if it's like a video or an audio problem, because that will allow you in the business intelligence to define how big the impact is of an alarm on this parameter. Not available physical memory, of course, but if it's an audio parameter or a video parameter, there will be more impact on my service, or if it's only a teletext, etc. Now, so that's business intelligence. That's not for now. Parameter access. There you can specify whether the parameter is shown or not on the Cube UI. So here you can actually define if a parameter should be hidden. If you want to remove some of the parameters, you can actually do so. What else do we have available? So the hidden I just mentioned, the alarm description and corrective actions. And that's actually an interesting one, because this allows you to immediately provide some additional information to an operator managing the alarms. More a description to the alarm, what it means. If this alarm is happening on some kind of cryptic parameter, what does it mean? And the corrective actions immediately indicating like what can be done to fix the problem. So that really helps you to immediately add some additional information to the alarms that this parameter is generating. And actually, if I take a closer look, if I cancel this one and if I go back to my Philips my information templates, we will see that the audio output gain, it actually has an alarm description. Audio output gain is either too low or too high, and the corrective action indicates send the technician to respectfully smack the IRD. So if we take a look at an alarm on any of those, and now I have a lot of memory. Let's go for the, what is it, output. Do we have somewhere an output gain? Yes, we do have an output gain alarm, but the column is by default not shown. So that's something we discovered in the alarms module. So you can just right click on any of the headers, add and remove columns, and then we go to alarm description and corrective actions, and we immediately add those two here. Let me just move them a little bit more up front. So I can immediately see the output gain is either too low or too high, and the corrective action sent technician to on site. So you can immediately see the information that you populated here in your information template. Some additional information. It's not specific for the driver, but it is specific for your environment, your operations, what your people should do when they see this kind of alarm. So you can add some description and some corrective actions there. And then you can see that information in the alarm console. What is the offline impact? That's also for the business intelligence. If an alarm on this parameter actually has impact when it's offline, yes or no. You can also add some additional alarm properties right from your information templates, and you can also specify or overrule if this one is part of your snapshot. That's a special offload thing for the central database. I won't go into details on that. That's just to take a snapshot at certain points in time of a certain subset of parameters. Here you can define the subset that should be included in the snapshot. If you want to know more information, you can find that in the help. So as you can see, the information template allows you to overrule a lot of information from a driver, to add your own view on this, and then to activate that. I've already activated mine on my example here. So let me go back to that Microsoft platform again. So I have my Microsoft platform available here. So currently it's the default template which is currently being used. So if I want to go back and take a look at my CPU, my BERT template that I created, I took the total processor load, all the other parameters are gone. You can easily go back and select another one, overrule this one, for instance, available mem, just to give a short, quick other name. You can go add some alarm descriptions, for instance, hide a parameter. All of these things can be done from here. I'm happy, I'm okay with that. Let me now put them side by side again. So if I want to activate it, you right click on the templates that you want to activate and you go for set active information template. There's a confirmation. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. The total processor load and the available physical memory is immediately changing to the new value. I already shown you an example of the corrective actions, the alarm description, and the corrective actions that is being indicated here on the audio output gain that was available on the other driver there. Okay, so think about the information template. Don't necessarily change a driver, but certain things can be changed in a template. The information template is more about generic information like a name and the corrective actions and these kind of things. We will take a look in the next module on the alarm templates and the trend template, which allows me to define when alarming and trending needs to be done. And that's going to be a very important template, the alarm and trend templates. Now to wrap it up, you do also have the possibility to actually drill down. Let me show you that. Available memory, well, maybe that was too short. I can double click on it. And I do have the fourth tab page here, templates, the possibility to change not the alarm or trend template, that's for the next modules, the information, and here I can immediately change the alarm and corrective actions. So maybe I should show it on our on any of the Philips devices. And let me close that one. If I'm not happy with that smacking of the IRD, which is maybe not so nice, so let's go to the output gain, the templates, the information template. So I double clicked on the parameter, so basically going down into the audio output gain or output gain, going to the templates page, going to the information, and here we can actually rephrase that with respectfully restart, or just to restart the IRD, update the information template, and now we have again a nice corrective action, which is also immediately reflected into my alarm console. So that's a quick shortcut that you don't necessarily have to open up your information template, but you can just drill down into it. And maybe also a quick shortcut while I'm at it, if you just close all of this and you want to go to the driver of your training Microsoft element I created before, you just right click and you go to protocols and templates, and then you can immediately view the protocol in here. So that immediately opens up the protocols with the details that I had on top. You can just close it or go to the protocols and templates specifically where immediately that Microsoft platform, that version is being selected. So alternatively, you need to open up the apps and search in that list for the correct driver. Same thing, just quick shortcuts. Okay. Then finally, the last thing that I want to mention is just briefly, there is also a second list or tab page available in your protocols and templates app that shows you a list of all the elements in your DataMiner system. Whenever you select an element, you can see on the right-hand side the available alarm and trend templates, and you can select another one and assign it. That's useful also if you want to do some bulk editing, for instance. I have two Microsoft elements. If I want to change both of them at once and update them to a new alarm template, or maybe in my case, remove the alarm templates, I can, in this list, maybe filter on training or my first name. So I have my two Microsoft elements here. I can do a multiple selection with Shift or Control. I see they're running on standard. I can go for no monitoring, select another template. I only have the no monitoring available, which is by default available. Assign that, and immediately my two elements are no longer being monitored. So that's a list that allows you to do these kind of bulk editing. That's probably the most useful approach for this list, you could say, or use case. All right, so that was protocols. That was about adding new drivers or protocols to your DataMiner system, making sure that you handle that production version correctly, so you can easily add a new driver, check it out, and then move the production pointer to that new version so that everything is using that new version. You can easily go back as well to the previous version. Then, of course, we took a look also to the Visio files you can assign to it, but more about Visio files later on. And our first template, the information template, allowing you to overrule certain bits and pieces from a driver. So preferably we don't touch the drivers, because we can then easily still go to a next version without any impacts. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.